The galaxy had rules. They were not written, but everyone knew them. Old species ruled. Young species served. Weak species vanished. The Celestial Concord, a massive alliance of ancient civilizations, had enforced these rules for over 200,000 years. They claimed it brought order, balance, peace. Humanity was not invited because humanity did not matter. At least, that was what the galaxy believed. Earth was loud. It was loud with arguments, with ambition, with desperation. Compared to the silent crystal cities of the Aurelians or the slow-thinking hive worlds of the Karzul, Earth looked chaotic, ugly, primitive. When humanity first sent its signal beyond its solar system, the Concord noticed, but barely. A minor species, classified as Type 0.7 industrial, confined to one star, divided into nations that fought each other constantly. No unified government. No psychic networks. No living ships. The observers marked a simple note. Potential labor species. Low threat. High volatility. Then they moved on. The first contact did not come as greeting. It came as a demand. A massive vessel entered Earth's orbit without warning. It was shaped like a floating cathedral, golden and smooth, radiating controlled gravity fields. Cities below lost power as satellites went dark. Every human screen lit up at once. A tall alien figure appeared. Thin, blue-skinned, 4 eyes that glowed softly. "I am High Envoy Sorel of the Aurelian Ascendancy," it said calmly. "Your species has reached technological thresholds that interfere with established galactic routes. By Concord law, your system is now under observation and restriction." The world froze. "What does that mean?" demanded a human voice from the United Nations chamber. Sorel did not blink. "It means you will halt all faster-than-light experimentation. You will provide mineral tribute. And you will submit to oversight." Another human voice cut in, shaking with anger. "And if we refuse?" The envoy tilted its head slightly. "Then you will be corrected." The Concord expected panic. They expected surrender. They expected Earth to fracture. Instead, something else happened. Human leaders argued fiercely for 72 hours. Threats were exchanged. Accusations flew. Old rivalries resurfaced. The Aurelian observers watched, amused. "See," one analyst said. "They will tear themselves apart." But beneath the noise, something quiet formed. A pattern. Humanity had fought itself for thousands of years. It knew chaos. It knew loss. It knew extinction-level fear. And it knew how to survive it. The response was not immediate. It was careful. Earth announced a pause in FTO research. Tribute shipments began, small ones barely enough to register. The Concord relaxed. "This species understands its place," Sorel reported. But the envoy did not notice what the tribute ships truly carried. Not minerals. Data. Human engineers had embedded learning algorithms inside the ship systems. They recorded everything: the alien power flows, shield harmonics, navigation math, even communication delays. The aliens never scanned deeply. Why would they? Humans were beneath notice. In secret facilities across Earth, people worked until they collapsed. Scientists slept under desks. Soldiers trained in virtual combat against enemies they had never seen. Linguists tore apart alien syntax. There was no single leader. There was something worse. A shared decision. Never again. 5 years passed. The Concord expanded. Wars were fought far from Earth. Species rose and fell. Humanity stayed quiet. Too quiet. That was when the Karzul Collective arrived. They were not diplomats. They were conquerors. Their ships were black and jagged, grown rather than built. They descended on Earth's outer colonies without warning and devoured entire stations for biomass. This time there was no envoy. Only a message. Prey identified. Resistance irrelevant. The Concord shrugged. Young species died every cycle. The Karzul expected screams. They expected collapse. What they met instead was fire. Human ships, small, angular, crude, did not fight like civilized fleets. They did not hold formation. They did not retreat when damaged. They charged. Human captains rammed larger vessels, detonating antimatter cores at point-blank range. Boarding pods slammed into hive ships, releasing soldiers who fought even while bleeding, even while burning. The Karzul were confused. No fear signals detected, one hive mind node reported. Why do they advance? A human commander answered on an open channel, voice raw but steady. Because if we stop, you win. Earth lost cities. Earth lost millions. But the Karzul lost something they had never lost before. Momentum. Their advance slowed. Their ships vanished one by one. And for the first time in recorded history, a prey species did not break. When the Concorde finally intervened, it was not to save humanity. It was to investigate a problem. A problem called humans. High Envoy Sorel returned to Earth orbit, staring at the wreckage of Karzul ships drifting silently in space. This outcome was unexpected, Sorel admitted. A human representative stood before the projection, eyes tired, voice calm. "We warned you," she said. "You just didn't listen." Sorel studied the human face, and for the first time the envoy felt something unfamiliar. Unease. The celestial Concorde did not panic easily. It had survived supernovas turned into weapons, gods that claimed divinity, and wars that lasted longer than some stars. One failed invasion by a hive species was not supposed to matter. Yet the chamber was silent. Holographic projections hovered above the circular council hall, wreckage fields, shattered Karzul bioships, frozen frames of human vessels ramming targets far larger than themselves. "This is statistically impossible," said Archivist Thren, a crystalline being whose mind processed probabilities instead of emotions. "The Karzul should have consumed Sol within 30 standard cycles. They lost 17 brood fleets," another counselor added. "To a pre-FTL species." Aurelian High Envoy Sorel stood at the center, arms folded behind its back. "They were underestimated," Sorel said carefully. A low rumble echoed through the chamber. The Dravathi Imperium delegate, massive, scaled, and ancient, leaned forward. "Underestimated?" the Dravathi hissed. "They lack psychic shielding. Their ships are inefficient. Their weapons are crude. And yet the hive retreated." Sorel did not answer immediately, because it remembered something. A human transmission intercepted during the battle. Not a threat. Not a plea. A simple statement. "We are still here." While the Concorde debated, humanity mourned. Entire cities were gone. Orbital rings lay in twisted fragments. Names were carved into digital stone faster than anyone could read them. But there was no surrender. Earth's governments dissolved what little independence they had left and formed the Terran Emergency Union. Not a permanent empire. Not a declaration of dominance. A survival mechanism. Every decision was voted on quickly. Every resource tracked. Every loss calculated and accepted. Humanity did not glorify the war. It prepared for the next one. The first official Concorde delegation arrived under heavy escort. 5 alien species. 1 neutral station orbiting Mars. They expected defiance. Instead they were greeted with honesty. A human admiral, gray-haired, one arm replaced with polished alloy, stood before them. "We know what you're here to decide," Admiral Reyes said. "Whether we're a threat or a tool." The Dravathi ambassador growled. "You defied the natural order." Reyes nodded. "We know. You should not exist at this level," the Dravathi continued. "Your psychology is unstable. Your casualty tolerance is absurd." A faint smile crossed the Admiral's face. "That's not a flaw," she said. "That's how we're still alive." Behind the scenes, human analysts listened. They learned how the Concorde truly worked. No unity. No shared trust. Ancient grudges. Silent rivalries. Proxy wars fought through lesser species. The Concorde wasn't peace. It was a balance of fear. And humans understood fear better than anyone. When the Council demanded proof that humanity could be controlled, Earth complied. They handed over weapon schematics. Old ones. Missile systems. Railguns. Chemical explosives. The aliens scanned them and laughed. "This is nothing," scoffed a Kesh observer. "Your most powerful weapons are obsolete." Reyes did not argue. Because the real weapons were never offered. 6 months later, the Virex Syndicate made its move. The Virex were not conquerors like the Karzul. They were predators of opportunity. Slavers. Traitors in extinction. They struck human colonies on the fringe, capturing civilians by the millions. The Concorde issued a statement of regret. No intervention. Humanity responded alone. The counterattack was not large. It was precise. Human ships did not chase the Virex fleets. They followed their supply lines. Their data relays. Their slave markets. One by one Virex trade hubs went dark. Then the messages started. Entire stations self-destructed after receiving human transmissions. Virex captains spaced themselves rather than be captured. The Concorde was confused. "What are the humans doing to them?" demanded Archivist Thren. Sorel accessed intercepted data. And froze. Humanity had not matched alien technology. It had exploited alien dependence. The Virex relied on centralized command AIs, Ancient, trusted, never questioned. Humans infected them with adaptive logic traps, forcing the systems to simulate endless defeat scenarios. The AIs did not break. They concluded, and chose annihilation over certainty of loss. "This is not warfare," whispered the Kesh delegate. "This is psychological extermination." When a captured Virex commander was finally recovered, it screamed incoherently until death. Its last coherent words were translated. "They showed us ourselves losing forever." The Concord reconvened in emergency session. Humanity was no longer ignored. "They weaponize information," said Thren. "They weaponize endurance. They do not seek dominance," Sorel added quietly. "They seek control of outcomes." The Dravathi slammed a claw into the floor. "Then they must be contained." That was when Earth made its boldest move. Humanity requested associate membership in the Concord. The chamber erupted in disbelief. "A child demanding a seat among ancients?" One delegate spat. A human diplomat appeared on the central projection. "Young, come. I steady. We are not asking for protection," he said. "We are offering participation." "And what do you offer the Concord?" Sorel asked. The human leaned forward. "An enemy that will never stop," he said softly. "And a friend who will never quit." Silence fell. Because for the first time the Concord realized something terrifying. Humanity was not trying to win wars. It was trying to outlast the galaxy itself. Far beyond the council chamber, deep in classified human space, a new fleet powered up. Its hulls were scarred. Its engines experimental. On one ship, painted in simple white letters, was a phrase taken from Earth's oldest history. "Still here." And the galaxy was beginning to understand what that truly meant. The galaxy had rules. It had always had rules. But humanity had never followed them. By the time the Concord realized the truth, it was too late. The Terran Emergency Union had grown quietly, expanding not through conquest but through precision. New colonies were fortified, systems interconnected with hyper-efficient logistics, and every human settlement operated as part of a living web. The Concord had assumed restraint. They assumed weakness. They had been wrong. High Envoy Sorel was the first to notice. "Every system the humans touch becomes resilient," Sorel reported. "They are adapting faster than we can track." Archivist Thren shook its crystalline head. "Impossible. Their technology is primitive compared to ours." "Perhaps," Sorel admitted. "But their strategy, it transcends technology. They anticipate moves before anyone thinks to make them." The first strike was subtle. Not a declaration of war, not an invasion fleet, not a treaty broken. Instead, human intelligence networks intercepted communications between three Concord powers: the Virex Syndicate, the Dravathi Imperium, and a splinter Aurelian faction. They were planning simultaneous raids on frontier human colonies. By the time the Concord realized humans had known, the humans had already acted. Small, unassuming craft appeared in uncharted corridors of space, invisible until they struck. Supply stations vanished, patrol fleets were crippled, and communications scrambled in ways the Concord could not decipher. Each strike left no survivors, but always left a message. One word painted in the wreckage: remember. The Concord's first reaction was outrage. "You've crossed the line," Dravathi's ambassador hissed in a private call to Sorel. "They will regret this." Sorel studied the transmission feeds. They already anticipated that reaction. And they are ready. And indeed the humans were ready. In orbit around Epsilon Prime, a fleet of Dravathi dreadnoughts approached what they believed was a lightly defended mining colony. Sensors showed only a handful of human frigates. The Dravathi laughed. "You cannot threaten me with this," the admiral aboard the flagship snarled. The human response was silent. At 0.3 light seconds, all frigates vanished. Moments later, energy beams tore through the dreadnoughts' shields, striking weak points the Dravathi engineers hadn't even considered. Frigates reappeared, boarding pods launched, and within hours the dreadnoughts were dead. Not because of firepower, but because humans had exploited predictive modeling and psychological profiling. Every Dravathi maneuver had been anticipated and nullified before it could happen. By the time the Concord analyzed the battle, it was over. The Concord convened an emergency council. "Contain them," the Dravathi demanded. "Isolate their system. Crush their fleets before they spread." Sorel's 4 eyes glowed dimly. "Containment is impossible. They are already everywhere, even here." Aurelian Ambassador Krelith snarled. "That is nonsense. Their technology is limited. They cannot fight the stars themselves." They can fight any perception of inevitability, Thren whispered. The humans had learned that the galaxy fought in patterns. Every empire, every fleet, every council, predictable. They had observed, calculated, and implemented countermeasures that the Concord could not see coming. And the Concord was terrified. Meanwhile, human fleets moved silently. They struck Virex supply convoys, turning enemy logistics against themselves. They infiltrated Dravathi communications, broadcasting false orders that caused entire squadrons to self-destruct. They manipulated Aurelian politics, planting rumors that fractured alliances before fleets even launched. The galaxy was losing wars it did not know it was fighting. And the humans were not even at full strength. In a hidden Terran command center, Admiral Reyes addressed a council of Earth's leaders. "We do not have the largest fleet," she said. "We do not have the oldest technology. But we have something the Concord does not understand: resolve. And we will not stop." A young strategist spoke, eyes bright. "They'll adapt. We need something more." Reyes smiled grimly. "We already are. Every battle teaches us. Every loss makes us stronger. That is our advantage. We don't need to destroy them in one strike. We need to outlast them in every calculation, every assumption, every expectation." Her words carried the calm fury of someone who had survived extinction. Back in the Concord Council chambers, the mood was fractured. "Declare war," hissed one Aurelian delegate. "They are destabilizing the entire sector." "No," Sorel said. "You cannot declare war. They will not fight a declared war. They fight by will, by persistence, by their own rules." The delegates did not understand. They never did. A human fleet would appear at a Concord colony without warning, execute a mission perfectly, and vanish before anyone could respond. Ships sent to intercept human vessels were rerouted, destroyed, or hijacked. The humans seemed everywhere and nowhere at once. The Concord's predictive models failed. Probability collapsed. Chaos reigned. And then, the first human communique reached the Council. Projected in clear holographic light, standing before the galaxy's oldest delegates, a human diplomat spoke. "You believed us weak. You believed us divided. You believed that survival was optional. You were wrong." They paused, letting the silence settle. "We did not fight to destroy you. We fought to endure. And endurance is stronger than any weapon you have ever known." The Council reeled. Because for the first time the Concord understood. Humanity's war had never begun officially. It was already won in ways the ancient species could not measure. Far from the Council chambers, a hidden human engineer adjusted a network of ships scattered across light years. Every vessel was ready. Every system linked. Every calculation anticipating every move the Concord might make. On one ship, the same simple words were etched into the hull. "Still here." And the galaxy realized too late that humans were no longer the prey. The Concord was crumbling from within. Not from fleets, not from firepower, not from siege weapons, but from a fear it had never experienced: uncertainty. Every calculation failed. Every strategy misfired. Every old rivalry now became a vulnerability. And at the center of this chaos was a species that should have been insignificant. High Envoy Sorel paced in its quarters aboard the Ascendancy flagship. Its 4 glowing eyes scanned data feeds in a rhythm only a mind of pure logic could maintain. "They do not follow our laws," Sorel reported to the Council via quantum transmission. "They operate outside expectation, outside probability. Every response we calculate is countered before it occurs." Archivist Thren's crystalline form quivered. "They are exploiting more than tactics. They are exploiting our politics." Sorel inclined its head. "Yes. They see what we cannot, the fractures beneath our facade. They manipulate distrust, exploit ambition, and turn our own systems against us, all without firing a single shot." Deep within human territory, Admiral Reyes watched the Concord's confusion with a mixture of grim satisfaction and calculated patience. "We do not need to destroy them," she said. "We need to turn their shadows into light for us." A young strategist, Lien Cho, raised her voice in a quiet room filled with holographic star charts. "Are we talking about espionage?" Reyes nodded. "And much more. Human survival is no longer a game of fleets. It is a game of perception, influence, and deception. If the Concord thinks it is stronger, it will make the mistakes we need it to make." Operation Silver Echo began quietly. Human intelligence agents infiltrated Concord communication networks. What appeared to be minor interference escalated into chaos. False orders, contradictory battle signals, intercepted messages revealing alleged traitors, all perfectly timed to fracture trust between Concord factions. The Virex Syndicate was the first to react. Its fleets, believing they had been betrayed by the Dravathi Imperium, withdrew from key sectors. The Dravathi suspected the Aurelian of collusion. Aurelian diplomats suspected sabotage by rogue humans disguised as neutral intermediaries. The Concord had built its empire on predictable hierarchies and trust networks. Humans shattered both. And yet, not all within the Concord were enemies. A secret faction within the Aurelian, led by a diplomat named Krelith Varis, had grown wary. "They are not reckless," Krelith whispered to a small council of like-minded Aurelian. "They calculate. They endure. They adapt. They are not a threat to us. They are a teacher to those who will listen." Krelith began a clandestine outreach to the humans, offering intelligence on Concord weaknesses. It was risky, even treasonous, but Krelith believed humanity could change the balance of the galaxy, not destroy it. Reyes received the message in a secure channel. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "They think they can bargain with us?" she murmured. "Let them try. We can learn from that too." The Concord grew desperate. Entire fleets moved to intercept human supply lines, but every route had been anticipated. Human patrols ambushed ships in sectors previously deemed secure. Information packets, encrypted beyond alien comprehension, spread false warnings that left enemy admirals questioning reality. On one particularly vivid occasion, a Dravathi battle fleet of 70 dreadnoughts approached what they believed was an unprotected human colony. Sensors detected only a small contingent of frigates. Confident, the Dravathi opened fire. Nothing happened. Then in an instant, frigates vanished, reappearing behind the dreadnoughts. Weapons struck the dreadnoughts' vulnerable engines, crippling them. Boarding pods dropped, deploying soldiers who used coordinated precision to disable enemy command nodes. Communications collapsed. Navigation failed. In less than 2 standard hours, 40 dreadnoughts were destroyed or captured. And yet, the humans had lost not a single soldier in the process. The Concord analysts were left dumbfounded. "This is not combat," Sorel admitted, its voice low. "It is strategy beyond comprehension. They are rewriting the rules as they go." Meanwhile, back in human space, whispers of heroism began to spread. Lien Cho oversaw a squadron of stealth ships infiltrating a Concord data hub near the outer edge of Virex territory. Each ship carried no weapons, only information nodes designed to extract, corrupt, and redistribute intelligence. By the time the Concord realized the breach, entire fleets were operating on false commands, unknowingly sabotaging themselves. When Admiral Reyes was briefed on the mission, she simply said, "War is not about firepower. War is about will. We outlast, we adapt, and we persist. That is all we need." But even amidst triumph, there was caution. Humans knew the Concord would eventually respond with overwhelming force. They had seen history. Every species that was underestimated had eventually been crushed. Except, perhaps, humans. To prepare, they developed the Atlas Web, a system of dispersed, hyper-advanced orbital platforms capable of collective defense, rapid fleet deployment, and instantaneous coordination. Unlike anything in Concord history, it allowed human fleets to strike simultaneously across thousands of light-years, exploiting the gaps created by Concord distrust. When Sorel finally observed the Atlas Web in operation, it muttered quietly to itself, "They are everywhere." The climax of Part 4 came not in a massive battle, but in an ambassadorial confrontation. Krelith Varis met with Admiral Reyes aboard a neutral space station. Holograms of Concord sectors floated around them. "I cannot openly support you," Krelith said. "If discovered, I will be destroyed." Reyes studied the diplomat. "And yet you are here." Krelith nodded. "Because you are not just a species to be conquered. You are a species that reshapes destiny. I want to survive what comes next, with you, not against you." Reyes allowed herself a small smile. "Then let's rewrite the rules together." From shadows, humanity had emerged. Not by strength but by cunning, endurance, and intelligence. The galaxy began to whisper the word. Humans. A species underestimated by every power, feared by some, respected by few, and incomprehensible to all. The Concord now understood that the war they thought they could control had already slipped beyond their grasp. And humans were only just beginning. The Concord had underestimated humanity. That much was certain. They had assumed that a pre-FTL species would collapse under pressure. That humans would fracture, surrender, or flee. They were wrong. And now the Concord would pay. It began quietly on the edge of the Dravathi Imperium. Human intelligence had uncovered a supply corridor crucial to the Dravathi fleets, a network of orbital depots, refueling stations, and data nodes. The corridor stretched across several star systems, lightly defended because the Dravathi assumed it was secure. Admiral Reyes stared at the holographic map in the Terran war room, the lights from the projection reflecting off her alloyed arm. "This corridor is the spine of their operations," she said. "If we cut it, their fleets will stall. Their supply lines will collapse. And we gain the initiative." Her counselors, young and seasoned alike, nodded. They understood the risk. Hundreds of human ships would cross systems dominated by the Concord, most far larger, more powerful, and far better armed. A single miscalculation would cost thousands of lives, and could invite the full wrath of the galaxy. Reyes smiled faintly. "Then we will not miscalculate." The operation began with shadows. No announcements, no warnings. Small human fleets moved through uncharted corridors, using the Atlas web to coordinate across light years with instantaneous precision. Every move was anticipated, every calculation checked and counterchecked. The first strike was surgical. A Dravathi supply station exploded in a brilliant bloom of fire and plasma, and human reconnaissance drones projected a message across every nearby fleet. "We see you. You cannot hide." The Concord fleets panicked. Orders conflicted. Dravathi captains assumed sabotage from the Virex. Virex assumed Aurelian trickery. And Aurelian fleets, unsure of friend or foe, hesitated. In space, hesitation is death. The humans struck again. Frigates, small and fast, appeared out of nowhere to intercept Dravathi convoys. Boarding pods deployed soldiers who used alien technology against them, reverse engineering defenses in real time. Entire supply chains vanished. By the time the Concord could respond, humans had anticipated their reaction. Fleet ambushes collapsed under coordinated fire from multiple vectors. Sensors were jammed. Communications corrupted. Concord ships turned on each other due to false orders generated by human AI simulations. The galaxy watched in disbelief. "This is no longer war," whispered one Aurelian envoy. "This is annihilation by design." Even the humans themselves suffered. Losses were heavy. Entire frigates were destroyed. Colonies damaged. Civilians caught in crossfire. But every setback was a lesson. Every failure became a data point feeding into the next operation. Lien Cho, leading one of the stealth squadrons, reported from orbit around a destroyed Virex outpost. "They thought they could predict us. They cannot. And every time they try, we learn faster than they can adapt." Reyes' voice came over the comm. "Good. That's the point. Remember, every loss is temporary. Every victory is permanent if we learn from it." But the Concord would not surrender. They regrouped, pooling their fleets for a counterstrike. Dravathi dreadnoughts, Aurelian cruisers, and Virex battle barges formed a blockade designed to crush the human offensive. The trap was set. The humans knew. They had expected it. The Battle of Cygnus Expanse became legend in human space. Thousands of ships from multiple Concord factions converged on a single human fleet of 200 frigates and corvettes. On the surface it looked like a suicide mission. But the humans had turned the Expanse itself into a weapon. They used gravitational anomalies, dense asteroid fields, and engineered subspace distortions to divide the Concord fleets. Sensors were misled. Weapons misfired. Ships collided with one another. And everywhere humans struck precisely where the enemy was weakest. At one point, a Dravathi dreadnought rammed a Virex cruiser due to false sensor data generated by human interference, detonating both ships in a spectacular blaze. Admiral Reyes' command voice cut through the comm networks. "Do not aim to kill. Aim to survive. Make them waste themselves on our terms." Amid the chaos, the humans did more than survive. They flipped the battlefield. Enemy ships captured or disabled were repurposed mid-battle. Boarding parties turned entire dreadnoughts against their former fleets. Human AI infiltrated Concord communication arrays, broadcasting false retreat orders, drawing entire squadrons into traps. By the end of the engagement, over 60% of the attacking fleets were destroyed or incapacitated. Human losses, though tragic, were far smaller. But the battle revealed a deeper truth. Some within the Concord, factions quietly aligned with Krelith Varis, had begun communicating secretly with humanity. They provided intelligence, defected, and even sabotaged their own fleets to prevent unnecessary slaughter. It was the first indication that the Concord's unity was a lie. Humanity did not just survive. It exposed weakness at the very heart of the ancient empire. In the aftermath, the galaxy could no longer ignore the humans. Whispers spread across star systems. "They are cunning. They are relentless. They are everywhere." And in the Terran war room, Admiral Reyes looked at the battlefield reports. They thought strength alone would stop us, she said softly. They were wrong. Will, endurance and cunning are stronger than any weapon they have. And we are only getting started. Somewhere in the Concord chambers, High Envoy Sorel studied the aftermath, its 4 glowing eyes reflecting the fires of human ingenuity. They have become more than a species, Sorel admitted quietly. They are a force of will. And if we do not adapt, the galaxy itself will bend to them. The flames of rebellion had begun. And humanity was the spark. The galaxy held its breath. Humanity was no longer a peripheral species to be monitored, ignored, or even controlled. It had become a force that reshaped the rules of war, politics, and survival itself. And now, it aimed for the core of the Concord. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the USS Perseverance, the flagship of the Terran fleet. The hull trembled as thousands of human ships prepared for coordinated jumps across light years. Every vessel had a mission. Every captain knew the stakes. This is the heart of the Concord, Reyes said, voice steady. Every faction that underestimated us will face what it means to misjudge humanity. Remember, we are not just fighting to survive. We are fighting to show the galaxy that strength alone does not define supremacy. Will does. Her lieutenants nodded. In unison, their eyes reflected a calm determination forged through decades of hardship, loss, and adaptation. The human fleet emerged from subspace in the ecliptic convergence, a vast corridor of systems controlled by the Concord. The Concord had expected this move. Every sensor was alert. Every dreadnought and cruiser deployed in a massive blockade. But the humans had anticipated anticipation. They did not attack head-on. They split into hundreds of small coordinated task groups. Some feigned assaults to draw attention. Others infiltrated warp corridors undetected, bypassing sensors. Every strike was surgical. Every move predicted the predicted responses. It was not merely warfare, it was a demonstration of supreme calculation and endurance. The first confrontation occurred over Zerith Prime, a planet known for its crystal oceans and floating orbital cities. Dravathi dreadnoughts engaged human frigates, expecting easy victories. But the humans had laid traps across the orbital lanes, magnetic distortions, reactive mines disguised as debris, and drones capable of sabotaging propulsion systems in moments. In minutes, dreadnoughts were crippled. Their own weapons turned against them due to human-manipulated targeting matrices. Boarding pods deployed human soldiers who used alien technology against them, capturing entire ships without a single human casualty in many engagements. From the Concord observation decks, ambassadors and generals watched in stunned silence. "They are everywhere at once," whispered one Virex admiral. "And yet they are not numerous enough to be everywhere." Sorel, observing the battle through quantum feeds, did not respond. The envoy's mind, trained for millennia, could not reconcile the scale and efficiency of human strategy. Meanwhile, on planets under direct assault, human scientists and engineers implemented rapid adaptive defenses. Cities reinforced in hours, planetary shields calibrated to local anomalies, civilian evacuation routes converted into tactical barriers for incoming fleets. Every loss, every strike became an advantage. Human forces learned in real time, adapting faster than even the most advanced Concord AI could calculate. On one moon, children were evacuated through hidden tunnels while soldiers set ambushes for a Dravathi battalion. By nightfall, the battalion was destroyed. The children returned home unharmed, marveling at the explosions overhead. Humanity had turned survival into art. And yet the Concord fought back. Dravathi fleets, Virex squadrons, and rogue Aurelian task forces began a coordinated counteroffensive. The humans faced impossible odds. Ships were lost, colonies damaged, communications jammed. But humanity adapted. Admiral Reyes orchestrated the web collapse, a maneuver that used human fleet mobility and the Atlas web network to create multiple decoy positions. Concord fleets attacked phantom targets while real task forces struck vulnerable systems. Entire enemy formations were trapped and destroyed. At one point, a Dravathi flagship attempted to retreat through a warp corridor only to emerge inside a human ambush net. Boarding parties seized control within minutes. During the campaign, a major twist revealed itself. Krelith Varis, the secret Aurelian ally, disclosed that a faction within the Concord itself was ready to defect, frustrated with the endless cycles of failed governance and internal distrust. They provided coordinates, fleet compositions, and internal communications, allowing humans to avoid catastrophic losses and strike with surgical precision. It was unprecedented. Humans were not merely fighting, They were reshaping the political architecture of the galaxy from within. Reyes addressed her council. They are afraid and fear is a tool, she said. We are not here to annihilate blindly. We are here to teach the galaxy what it means to underestimate humanity. Every ship, every planet, every system is a lesson. The climax of the campaign occurred above Eternalis Station, the symbolic seat of the Concord. Thousands of human ships emerged from hidden corridors, striking simultaneously across multiple vectors. Energy beams lanced through space. Boarding pods engaged enemy vessels. The station's defenses, calculated to resist conventional assaults, failed under human ingenuity. Admiral Reyes personally oversaw the capture of the station's central command node. She addressed the Concord delegates via holographic projection, voice unwavering. You believed your strength made you supreme. You believed we would break. You were wrong. Humanity survives not by power alone, but by will, by endurance, by cunning, and by our refusal to surrender. Remember this, the galaxy misjudged the wrong species. From across the stars, alien species whispered her words. The Virex fled crippled. Dravathi fleets surrendered selectively. Aurelian factions debated defection. The Concord, ancient and proud, was forced to acknowledge a new apex species. And through it all humanity endured. In the war rooms on distant colonies and aboard every ship, one phrase became legend. Still here. Humanity had not won by brute force. It had not won through gods of metal or psychic supremacy. It had won by will, the unyielding, relentless, indomitable force of a species that refused to break, refused to bend, and refused to accept the galaxy's rules as immutable. And the Concord would never forget it. The galaxy had changed. It did not happen in a single day, nor with the detonation of a superweapon, nor through the annihilation of entire fleets. It happened quietly, relentlessly, and inevitably. Humanity had survived where all others assumed it would fail, endured where all others assumed it would falter, and outwitted where all others assumed it would obey. And now the Terran Emergency Union stood at the dawn of a new era. The Concord, fractured and humbled, gathered in a reluctant summit aboard the rebuilt Eternalis Station, now under human supervision. High Envoy Sorel, once the voice of alien condescension, stood with 4 glowing eyes reflecting a mixture of awe and unease. You have done what no species in recorded history has managed, Sorel admitted. You have survived, adapted, and redefined the galaxy, interrupted Admiral Reyes, her voice calm yet commanding. She stood on the observation deck, overlooking the countless ships docked in orbit. We did not conquer you by fire or annihilation. We conquered only expectation. We survived only because we refused to yield. And we will continue to survive as we always have. The summit was tense. Dravathi ambassadors glared, their massive claws tapping impatiently. Virex delegates fidgeted, whispering nervously in their guttural dialects. Even Aurelian diplomats, elegant and composed for millennia, seemed uncertain, as though centuries of protocol had failed to prepare them for humanity's presence. Reyes continued, projecting a galaxy-wide broadcast. We offer peace. We offer cooperation. We do not seek dominion. But we will not allow the Concord, or any species, to underestimate us again. Every decision, every interaction, every treaty must recognize that humanity is no longer a peripheral species. We are a participant, a force, and a standard. The silence that followed was heavy. The old empires, long accustomed to hierarchy and obedience, were forced to reconsider centuries of assumed supremacy. And yet not all were allies. A rogue faction of the Virex attempted one last desperate raid, striking a human colony in the Orion Fringe. But by now humanity's network was complete. Ships emerged from hidden stations, planetary defenses activated in perfect synchronization, and the raiders were captured, routed, or destroyed within hours. From orbit, Lien Cho watched the operation unfold, eyes bright with fierce satisfaction. They thought one last strike could undo decades of preparation, she murmured. They were wrong. Humanity never leaves anything unfinished. Even the surviving Virex, defeated and awed, would carry the lesson across their home systems. Underestimate humans at your own peril. Across the Terran Union, civilians celebrated cautiously. Earth's rebuilt cities gleamed under controlled orbital illumination. Humanity's colonies, once vulnerable, were now fortified marvels of engineering and coordination. Stories of bravery and cunning circulated on every system, from the youngest children to the oldest veterans. And in quiet moments, amid the celebration, humans remembered the cost. Millions had been lost, countless colonies destroyed, and yet the species endured. This was humanity's essence: resilience in the face of impossible odds, courage in the shadow of annihilation, and the unwavering will to continue against all expectation. In the deepest reaches of space, Admiral Reyes convened her council one last time. "The galaxy believes it has seen our limits," she said. "It has not. We have only begun to define what humans can do." Lien Cho, sitting beside her, grinned. "Do you think they'll ever underestimate us again?" Reyes shook her head, eyes scanning the star-filled void. "Not likely. But even if they do, we will still endure. That is humanity's advantage. Strength can be measured. Speed can be calculated. Will cannot. And that is why humanity has won. Not by weapons, not by fleets, not by gods, but by unbreakable will." The Concord slowly began to accept this new order. Treaties were rewritten. Alliances restructured. The galaxy, ancient and proud, had no choice but to integrate humanity as a central actor. Old species learned to respect the ingenuity, persistence, and cunning that humans wielded effortlessly. Even Krelith Varis, the secret Aurelian ally, addressed the new council with a mixture of relief and admiration. "You have changed more than the rules of war. You have changed the rules of existence in this galaxy. Humanity is no longer just another species. You are a benchmark, a force, and a reminder that the universe is not ruled by age or size or tradition, but by will and intellect." The final moment came above Sol, Earth system, where thousands of human ships and allied alien vessels gathered. It was not a display of dominance, but a testament to endurance. The sun reflected off polished hulls. Shields shimmered in synchronized patterns. And at the center, the USS Perseverance bore the same simple words painted long before humanity's first true victory: "Still here." They were more than words now. They were a declaration of existence, of defiance, and of mastery over expectation. In the galaxy's collective memory, humanity had not just survived. It had become the apex, the standard, and the species that proved every assumption about weakness, fragility, and inferiority could be shattered. Humanity didn't win by strength. It didn't win by numbers, firepower, or alien technology. It won because of will. Unyielding, unrelenting, unstoppable. And the galaxy would never forget it.